Edward R. Murrow and the Birth of Broadcast Journalism by Bob Edwards. Narrated by Bob Edwards. Copyright 2004 by Bob Edwards. This unabridged audiobook was published by arrangement with John Wiley & Sons, Incorporated, and was produced in the year 2004 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Introduction. London, September 21st, 1940. For weeks, the German Luftwaffe had been bombing Britain in preparation for a planned invasion. Initially, the targets had been military airfields, but in early September, the strategy changed. Hitler struck London in the hope that the British people would beg their leaders to surrender. They bravely resisted instead. Describing Britain's finest hour to his American audience, CBS correspondent Edward R. Murrow made a different sort of history.
I'm standing on a rooftop looking out over London. At the moment, everything is quiet. For reasons of national as well as personal security, I am unable to tell you the exact location from which I'm speaking. Off to my left, far away in the distance, I can see just that faint, red, angry snap of anti-aircraft bursts against this steel blue sky. But the guns are so far away that it's impossible to hear them from this location. About 5 minutes ago, the guns in the immediate vicinity were working. I can look across just at a building not far away and see something that looks like a splash of white paint down the side. And I know from daylight observation that about a quarter of that building has disappeared, hit by a bomb the other night. Streets fan out in all directions from here, and down on one street I can see a single red light, and just faintly the outline of a sign standing in the middle of the street. And again, I know what that sign says, because I saw it this afternoon. It says, "Danger, unexploded bomb." Off to my left still, I can see just that red snap of the anti-aircraft fire. I was up here earlier this afternoon and looking out over these housetops, looking all the way to the dome of St. Paul's. I saw many flags flying from staffs. No one ordered these people to put out the flags. They simply feel like flying the Union Jack above their roofs. No one told them to do it, and no flag up there was white. I can see one or two of them just stirring very faintly in the breeze now. You may be able to hear the sound of guns off in the distance, very faintly, like someone kicking a tub. Now they're silent. 4 searchlights reach up, disappear in the light of a 3/4 moon. I should say at the moment there are probably 3 aircraft in the general vicinity of London, because one can tell by the movement of the lights and the flash of the anti-aircraft guns. But at the moment, in the central area, everything is quiet. More searchlights spring up over on my right. I think probably in a minute we shall have the sound of guns in the immediate vicinity. The lights are swinging over in this general direction now. You'll hear 2 explosions. Just there they are. Again, moving in, still a considerable distance away. Moving still just a little closer. There you heard 2. The searchlights are stretching out now in this general direction. I can hear just the faint whisper of an aircraft high overhead. Again, those guns are a considerable distance away. You'll hear them just vaguely in the background. Straight in front of me now. You'll hear 2 sounds in just a moment. There they are. That was the explosion overhead, not the guns themselves. I should think in a few minutes there may be a bit of shrapnel around here. Coming in, moving a little closer all the while. The plane is still very high, and it's quite clear that he's not coming in for his bombing run. Earlier this evening, we could hear occasionally, again, those were explosions overhead. Earlier this evening, we heard a number of bombs go sliding and slithering across to fall several blocks away. Just overhead now, the burst of the anti-aircraft fire. Still, the nearby guns are not working. And the searchlights now are feeling almost directly overhead. Now you'll hear two bursts a little nearer in a moment. There they are. That hard, stony sound.
A live radio report of a war in progress was still rare in 1940. Listeners in comfortable living rooms all across the United States were hearing Britons being bombed in real time. Edward R. Murrow was adding another dimension to the field of broadcast journalism that he and William L. Shirer had launched just 2.5 years earlier when Germany annexed Austria. The two CBS correspondents had helped establish radio as a vital source of news, and not just a place to hear game shows, dramas, and comedies. Radio, as a popular entertainment medium, was not yet 20 years old. Hearing Bing Crosby, Edgar Bergen, and Amos and Andy might have provided momentary diversions from the burdens of the Great Depression, but World War II required that radio assume a new and important role. Ed Murrow saw radio as a way to inform Americans about Nazi Germany's plans for Europe, a dark cloud Murrow spotted before most Americans who were not attached to government. To accomplish this, he assembled a team of smart and brave reporters whose accounts of the war would rival those of any newspaper staff and establish respectability for radio news. After the war, the expanded team carved out a spot for news in the new medium of television. Then in 1954, Murrow demonstrated that TV news possessed a power beyond that of other forms of journalism. He and producer Fred Friendly focused the CBS eye on Senator Joseph McCarthy, exposing McCarthy as a despot and a bully. The triumph of that accomplishment was short-lived, however, and in some ways marked the beginning of the end for Murrow at CBS. His exit from journalism 7 years later is a story rivaling his spectacular entry. Murrow lost favor with his bosses, but never with his public. He left the scene with his integrity intact and a stunning record of accomplishment. In just 15 years, Murrow and Company had introduced news to both radio and television, essentially creating broadcast journalism to complement and compete with the more established media of newspapers and magazines. The initial stars of radio and TV had been vaudeville entertainers. Murrow, no less a star, gave broadcasting some class and a mission of public service beyond entertainment. There was news on radio long before Murrow's first broadcast. Indeed, one of radio's most important early moments involved news. Returns from the 1920 presidential election read over station KDKA in Pittsburgh. Radio was present for the Marathon Democratic Convention of 1924, the John Scopes monkey trial of 1925, and Charles Lindbergh's solo flight to Paris in 1927. Herbert Hoover's inauguration in 1929 drew a radio audience of 60 million. Firmly established as a force in American life, radio carried news of the kidnapping of Lindbergh's son in 1932. 3 years later, millions listened to radio accounts of the circus trial of Bruno Richard Hauptmann, the man executed for the kidnapping and murder of the Lindbergh baby. Radio's first war correspondents covered Japan's conquest of Manchuria, Italy's invasion of Ethiopia, and the Spanish Civil War. The abdication of Britain's King Edward VIII was a huge radio event. The most famous segment of audio from pre-Murrow radio news is an account of the Hindenburg disaster of 1937. Herbert Morrison of WLS in Chicago went to Lakehurst, New Jersey, to record the landing of the German dirigible that had made 11 successful transatlantic crossings. This time the ship burst into flames as it reached its mooring. Unprepared for such a gaseous explosion, Morrison sobbed his account into a microphone. "It's crashing. Oh, my, get out of the way, please. And the folks, oh, it's terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, the humanity, all the passengers, all the people screaming here." The wags in today's newsrooms laugh when hearing, "Oh, the humanity," but they weren't there that day, and they didn't have to do Herbert Morrison's job. We should thank Morrison for having some humanity of his own as he watched 36 people.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?